3 bone-chilling babysitter horror stories that haunt you forever. Shocking truth revealed. It was a night like no other, shadows dancing in the flickering light of the old house. The wind howled outside, eerie whispers creeping through the cracks. Every creak of the floor sent shivers down the spine. But nothing was more unsettling than the babysitter, young, pretty, and totally unaware of the evil lurking just beyond the front door. This was not just another night of babysitting, it was a dark descent into something unimaginable. When Sara arrived at the Evans household, she felt an odd chill in the air, as if the house itself held its breath. The flickering lights made her jump. The kids were already asleep, their little breaths soft and innocent. But then she noticed something strange, a worn, faded photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. The faces of those in the picture seemed to twist in the low light, reflecting a sadness that made her heart pound. Who were they? Why did they look so upset? At that moment, Sara decided to shake it off. It was just an old photo, right? Around midnight, the phone rang. Sara answered, her hands shaking. "Is everything all right?" a shaky voice asked, but it was crackling and distorted. Confusion filled her mind. Who was calling at this hour? Then the line suddenly went silent, like the calm before a storm. She checked the caller ID. It was an unknown number. The sudden thudding of her heart echoed in her ears. Was someone watching her? An unsettling tingle danced up her spine as the wind rattled the window. She thought of the silly urban legends she'd heard about babysitters and strange calls. Text messages from unknown numbers, threats, and missing children. She had dismissed them all as myths to protect her sanity, but now, doubt crept in like a shadow. Every moment stretched into an eternity. Then she heard a soft thump from upstairs. Panic gripped her throat. She slowly walked up the stairs, each creak louder than her racing heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Breathless, Sara stood on the landing. The darkness loomed ahead, thick and suffocating. Suddenly, another noise echoed from the children's room, a soft gasp. What was happening? She turned the knob slowly, heart pounding against her ribs. The door creaked open, but inside, nothing was as it seemed. The kids were sound asleep, but a child's doll sat at the foot of the bed, sitting upright, staring right at her. Terror gripped Sara, the moment stretching as she felt an overwhelming sense that she was being watched from the corners of the shadowy room. Then the laughter rang out, light, childlike laughter that chilled her to the bone. Who was there? Her breath quickened. As she spun around, the hallway appeared empty, a grotesque mockery of silence suddenly falling. She wasn't alone, but where could danger be hiding? The questions lingered, haunting her thoughts. Would she make it through the night? The air crackled with tension. Sara's heart thundered in her chest as adrenaline coursed through her veins. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to mock her fear. She took a step back, uncertain of what lay behind her. The doll's gaze cut into her like a knife, alive with a sinister intent. Who had placed it there? She fought her instincts, reminding herself that she was here to watch over the children, but the darkness felt alive and hungry for fear. Sara whispered their names, hoping for a response. Lila? Ben? Nothing. Just the echo of her voice and the restless shadows. Gathering her resolve, she turned back to the hallway, scanning every corner. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting past the edge of the stairwell. Is this some kind of sick joke? She muttered, but deep down, a chilling thought gripped her. What if it wasn't? As she moved cautiously back toward the stairs, the wind outside picked up, howling with such ferocity it sounded like a ghostly wail. Instinctively, she began to ascend the staircase, heart racing, mind racing faster. The heavy air pressed against her as she reached the top, every creak amplifying her anxiety. She reached the landing, the shadows more oppressive, wrapping around her like a blanket of despair. "Hello?" she called, her voice barely above a whisper. No answer. Only the chilling sound of her own breath and the distant crackle of electricity. She knew she had to check on the kids one more time. With each step closer to their room, a suffocating dread rippled through her. But Sarah's protective instincts kicked in, she had to make sure they were okay. Opening the door, she peered inside. The sight was shocking. The children were sound asleep, yet their room felt different. The air thickened as if the atmosphere itself had turned malevolent, and then, piercing the silence, the doll spoke, a voice high-pitched and twisted. "Want you play with me?" This surreal moment shattered her calm as she stumbled backward. The doll had been perfectly still before, but now it had moved closer to the edge of the bed, a gruesome smile plastered across its porcelain face. Sara stumbled out of the room, her feet barely keeping pace with the chaos in her mind. The laughter returned, echoing in the hallway, now louder and more sinister, as if it was mocking her. She turned on her heels and sprinted back downstairs, each footfall echoing a frantic plea for escape. But the front door was locked tight. Panic hit her like a wave. She rushed to the windows tightly shut, each attempt to open them thwarted by the weight of the night. Desperation gnawed at her as she scrambled for her phone. Her fingers trembled as she dialed 911, praying for rescue. The sound of static greeted her. No signal. Was the house doing this on purpose? Suddenly, a shadow flickered by the hallway again. No time to waste. The toy chest in the living room was her only option to hide. As she dove behind it, her breath came fast and shallow. She could feel the laughter getting closer, creeping around the house, searching for her. Were the kids safe? Would she ever get out of this curse? Just then, a gentle hand touched her shoulder. Sara froze, completely still. Her heart stopped. Who was it? The doll or something worse? The moment hung in the air, suspended in fear. And then she heard a whisper, "It's time to play." What awaited her on the other side of the toy chest? The whisper slithered into her mind, cold and chilling, wrapping around her thoughts like a vice. Sara's heartbeat screamed in her ears, drowning out the laughter that seemed to ripple just beyond her hiding place. She slowly turned her head, dread pooling in her stomach. Who was behind her? "What do you want?" she croaked, her throat dry and raspy. The laughter ceased, leaving only the heavy silence, pressing down on her like an unwelcome weight. Just as she braced for whatever horror awaited her, she felt the hand retract. The sudden absence of contact sent shivers racing down her spine. Her heart thumped harder, a warped march of fear. In the tense quiet, she dared to peek from behind the toy chest. The room was empty. Dim shadows swirled, the once comforting soft toys now looming ominously in the dark. She took a tentative breath, but the air felt thick, almost suffocating. The oppressive silence gnawed at her, and she could hear her pulse thundering in her ears. Then, from the corner of her eye, she spotted movement, a curtain swaying slightly as if something had just passed through it. Panic surged anew, and she scrambled to her feet. She had to find the kids. They had to be okay. The thought propelled her forward, past the chest and toward the staircase. Rushing up the steps felt both familiar and foreign, each creak beneath her seemed to echo with mocking laughter. She reached Lila and Ben's door, praying the safety of sleep encased them still. She pushed the door open, heart in her throat. But the sight before her shattered that slim hope instantly. The room was no longer empty. The doll sat in the center of the bed, propped up with its dark eyes fixated on her. Only this time, the children were awake, but they lay eerily still, eyes glazed as if in a waking dream. Lila and Ben stared at the doll, mesmerized, a strange, eerie calmness surrounding them. "Sara." Lila's voice was sing-song, laced with an unsettling echo. "We're playing." "What?" Sara whispered, bewildered. Fear clawed at her throat, and she fought the urge to flee. "This isn't right, come play with us," Ben added, his grin wide and unnatural, as if the child she knew was swapped for something far more sinister. The doll tilted its head, its smile twisting into something grotesque, as if approving of their strange game. Laughter erupted from somewhere within Sara, hollow and fragile. Was it them? Was this a twisted game? Rushing toward the kids, she shook her head violently, fighting the pull of their empty gazes. "No. You need to get away from it." But as she approached, an unseen force knocked her back, and she stumbled feet away, clashing into one of the corner walls. Dizziness washed over her. The laughter returned, now shrill, more aggressive, echoing against her skull. A guttural whisper surged through the shadows, calling out her name, tugging at her consciousness. "Join us." Sara's blood ran cold. How could the kids be so entranced by the doll? She needed to break whatever hold it had on them before it consumed them whole. She lunged forward again, closing the distance, desperation fueling her movements as she fought against the unseen restraint. But just as she reached for Lila's arm, something sharp brushed against her leg, a thin wire that snaked across the floor, coiling around her. Panic flooded her senses as she fell to the ground, ensnared and struggling. "Playtime is fun," the doll chirped, laughing with that horrific sweetness that made her skin crawl. Sara screamed, "No. You're not going to take them." The voice of the doll turned low and gravelly. "They already belong to me." In that moment of chaos, with fear clawing at her chest, a haunting realization gripped her. The house had drawn her in, and something worse was lurking in the shadows. But what was she up against? A thundering sound shook the ground beneath her, and the atmosphere thickened, a promise of the horrors yet to come. What unspeakable fate awaited them all in the heart of the night? Sara writhed on the floor, the wire cutting into her skin, the tightening grip feeling almost sentient. The laughter of the doll resonated in her head, assaulting her with a storm of dread. The room spun, shadows flickering, dancing like fiends eager to claim her soul. "Get away from them!" She screamed again, her voice raw, desperation clawing at her throat. "Playtime is fun," the doll repeated, its voice dripping with malice. It was as if the objects around her were laughing too, mocking her helplessness. The children remained entranced, eyes fixated on the doll, their expressions vacant yet somehow triumphant. With every ounce of strength left in her, Sara thrashed against the wire, her muscles screaming in protest. "Lila! Ben! Listen to me. It's not real." The doll's eyes gleamed, reflecting an unspeakable hunger. "They want to play forever. Don't you, children?" "Yes." Lila sang, her tone sweet yet chilling. "Play with us, Sara." Panic surged hot within her. Something had twisted her children's minds, tying them to this grotesque figure. What power did this doll hold? With one last adrenaline-fueled effort, she writhed her way out of the wire's snare. Freedom tasted bitter, laced with terror. She lunged for Lila, grasping her shoulders, shaking her gently. "Wake up. You have to wake up. This isn't a game." But Lila only blinked, eyes glassy and distant. The doll's laughter echoed, filling the room with a hideous harmony. Ben, panting, suddenly joined in, his little voice mingling with the toy's eerie tone. "We want to play with you forever, Sara." Just like them, a dark shadow loomed from the corner of the room, stretching outward. It took form, shifting and pulsating as if alive. The walls of the room constricted, closing in on her. She felt power emanating from the shadow, an all-consuming force that beckoned her to submit. "Join us," it whispered, the breeze chilling her skin. "No." Sara fought against the overwhelming urge to succumb. She had to save them. She cast frantic glances around the room, looking for anything that could break this hold. She spotted the soft toys, once innocent playthings, now glowing with an eerie light. They might be the key. "Lila! Ben!" she shouted, hoping to reach them. "Join us!" They chorused again, their voices brittle and haunting, with fear fueling her determination. Sara dove across the floor, reaching for the nearest toy, a fluffy bear, its fur radiant with a strange warmth. She lifted it high, defiance glimmering in her eyes. "I want to let you take them." The room shook. The shadow recoiled, anger rippling across its surface. The doll's laughter faltered, a crack splintering its calm facade. "You can't save them. They are mine." As Sara held the bear aloft, a surge of light cascaded from it, illuminating the dim corners of the room. The shadows shrieked, and a crack split the air, sending tremors rippling through the floor. Lila and Ben flinched, as if waking from a deep sleep. Their eyes darted, clouds of confusion clearing as they blinked at their frantic mother. "Sara?" Ben whispered, trembling. This was it. This was her chance. "You have to fight it. Focus on me." But there was still no guarantee it would be enough. The darkness rumbled with fury, desperate to claim what it had lost. Sara could feel its vile breath, coiling around her heart and squeezing. Sara Lila's voice was small and frightened, yet tethered to a spark of awareness. The doll twisted and churned, a monstrous figure caught in flux. It bared its teeth, the grotesque smile threatening to engulf them in madness. "You cannot win." The air crackled with tension, the room suspended in that moment of impending doom. Would her light be enough to break the bond that snared her children? Or would they all succumb to the darkness lurking just beyond? In the heart of that whirlwind moment, a decision loomed, one that would seal their fates forever. What was Sara willing to sacrifice to bring her children back? Even as hope flickered like a dying ember, she stood firm, ready to risk it all. With a primal scream, she plunged into the abyss, clutching the bear, determined to strike down the malevolence that sought to devour them. What price would she have to pay for their freedom? The air exploded around Sara as the light from the bear surged, wrapping around her and her children like an ethereal embrace. It illuminated the room, washing over the ominous shadows, but the doll's laughter morphed into thunderous rage. "No!" Its voice echoed, reverberating off the walls, a tumult of fury and despair. The shadows writhed in protest, thrashing like a wounded creature. "Hold on!" Sara cried, her voice a beacon of defiance. She pressed the bear closer to her heart, summoning every ounce of love she had for her children, embedding it into the light that flickered from the toy. "Lila. Ben. You're stronger than this." Ben's small body trembled, and Lila's expression contorted. She shifted between the trance and clarity, her gaze darting between her mother and the doll. "Mommy, it hurts." Ben whimpered, clutching his head as if to dispel the darkness that surged within. In that instant, the doll's smile split wider, as if savoring their agony. "You think you can save them? They belong to me now. This is their playtime." But Sara's resolve solidified. "No. You're lying. You're just a monster hiding behind a mask." With every ounce of will, she hurled the bear towards the doll. Time stretched, slowing as the beloved toy arced through the air. As it neared its ghastly target, the shadows recoiled, the doll's grin faltering as if it sensed the shift in power. "Stop!" it bellowed, a desperate plea too late to reverse. The bear connected with the doll's chest, a shockwave reverberating through the room. Light enveloped them entirely, erasing the darkness with a blinding blaze. The laughter turned to screams, shrill and heart-wrenching, wrapping around Sara like chains of ice. "Lila. Ben." She shouted again, the brightness swallowing the last vestiges of gloom, forcing the children from their stupor. As the radiance pulsated, Sara felt the pressure of the doll's hold disintegrate. Each scream reverberated in Sara's ears, blending with her own heartbeat, fueling her fierce determination. "Take my hand," she shouted, reaching out. "We're leaving this nightmare." Ben stumbled towards her, eyes wide and fearful. "Mommy? I'm scared. Just trust me. I'm here," she urged, heart racing, hoping against hope that they wouldn't be lost to the shadows again. Lila followed her brother, both of them yearning for her warmth, yet still tethered to the remnants of the darkness. Suddenly, the shadows erupted. Tendrils lunged toward them, seeking to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. The room shook violently, walls trembling and fissures cracking like earth in upheaval. There was an urgency, an ultimatum hanging in the air. They had to escape before it all collapsed around them. As the children grasped her hands, Sara felt the ground beneath them waver, as if responding to the furry bear's power. "Run!" she screamed, bolting toward the door. Each heartbeat echoed a frantic rhythm, pounding through her veins as they tore through the chaos. But just as they reached the threshold, a cold hand shot from the gloom, dragging Lila back toward the depths of darkness. "No!" Sara's heart shattered as she lunged, gripping her daughter's wrist with a fierce tenacity. "I want to let go. We are stronger than this." The doll's visage pulsed among the shadows, twisting in anger, recognizing its defeat but unwilling to release its grip. "You cannot escape your fate." The room quaked, but Sara's love shone brighter. "Not when I have them." In a blur of light and anguish, she anchored herself in that moment, bracing against the tempest of the shadows, unwilling to yield. Yet shadows clung tighter, tightening their grip. The air was electric and heavy, brimming with desperation as the boundaries of reality blurred, teetering on the edge of despair. What darkness had taken root in her beloved children? Would she be able to rescue them from this internal hell, or would she lose everything she had ever fought for? As the room began to tear apart, Sara felt her resolve shifting, her strength waning against the overwhelming force of the doll. Was it truly possible to win? One thing was clear: the final struggle of love against darkness was about to reach its heart-stopping crescendo. What would it cost her to save them? "Lila! Hold on to me." Sara's voice sliced through the chaos, but as her daughter hung on, the shadows turned from a writhing mass into a seething storm. The doll's laughter transformed, a haunting melody twisted with insanity. "Futile, Sara!" It screeched, the shadows twisting and swirling like a cyclone, creating an impenetrable barrier around them. "Your love is weak. It won't save them." The chill of panic coursed through her veins. Each second felt like an eternity, the shadows tightening around her children's minds. Ben whimpered as he watched Lila's face twist with pain. "Mommy, make it stop." "No, no, no." Sara roared, her heart hammering, burning with ferocity. She pulled on Lila, and with every ounce of strength, yanked her backward, away from the gaping maw that threatened to swallow them. But the darkness was relentless. Tendrils snaked around them like iron chains, pulling at Sara's will. She could feel the despair clawing at her heart. Was it true? Was her love not enough against this nightmare? "Together, you are only stronger for me." The doll howled, its voice now a sinister harmony with the screams around them. Panic surged as Sara's grip faltered, if only slightly. She couldn't let it win. "We're leaving." She pulled again with desperate strength, channeling all her hopes, all her fears into the force of her grasp. As she held both of her children, she felt the bear's warmth pulse between them, flickering as if drawing from her resolve. The light, though wavering, pushed back the shadows, illuminating the faces of her children, their desperate eyes reflecting the brutal reality around them. "Lila. Ben. Focus on me. You're bigger than this. You're my brave fighters." Sara shouted, her voice spiraling through the rubble like a lifeline. "Mommy." Lila cried, emboldened, yet the shadows latched onto her scream, filling the room with a thunderous echo. In that flicker of defiance, Sara felt a surge of love that ignited the bear's light, casting an ethereal glow against the darkness. "Now. Move." She thrust them forward, their feet slamming against the floor, rocketing toward the splintered door. The shadows pulled and pulled, a hunger that sent waves of terror coursing through her. But just as they neared freedom, the walls writhed in agony, and one last stretch of darkness lashed out, grabbing Sara's leg, dragging her down as she fought to pull her children free. "No, no!" she cried, the grip of despair tightening around her throat. She felt the cold seep into her bones, a paralyzing chill that threatened to consume her entirely. "Mommy!" Ben screamed, the sound like a dagger to her heart. Lila's shrieks joined him, chilling and helpless, as the room began to crumble further, pieces of the ceiling crashing to the floor in a cacophony of impending doom. Suddenly, a burst of light exploded from the bear, so forceful that it pushed back the shadows, slashing through the darkness. A whirlwind of radiance shot from Sara's heart, momentarily staggering the creature that had taken her children hostage. "Run! Now!" With wild determination, she tore herself free, dragging Lila and Ben behind her, their small bodies stumbling as debris fell around them. The door loomed closer, a beacon of hope as Emily wrenched it open. The air beyond felt alive, pulsating with energy. But just as they crossed the threshold, Sara glanced back to see the doll's grinning face among the tendrils. Its handful of shadows reached out, a tortured scream escaping its lips. "You can run forever." The door slammed shut behind them, and the echoes of darkness faded. Gasping, they stumbled into a corridor steeped in silence. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and Sara felt the sting of adrenaline ebbing away. They were free at least for now, but as she looked into her children's eyes, fear still clung to their expressions. Had they escaped, or was this merely the calm before another storm? "Mommy, is it over?" Lila's voice was a haunted whisper, small and frail. Sara didn't know how to answer, dread curling within her. What had that thing promised? What? Remnants of its grip lingered in their minds. In that silence, shadows pooled at the edges of her thoughts, lurking, waiting. The first battle had been won, but the war was far from over. What would it take to finally break free? The hallway stretched endlessly, a long, dark passage that swallowed their bodies whole. With each step, the silence wrapped around them, heavy and suffocating, as if the very air was steeped in unseen dread. Sara felt an eerie chill settle into her bones. "Mommy," Ben whimpered, gripping her hand tighter. "I don't like it here." "It's okay, sweetheart. We're safe now," she whispered, though her own heart was pounding against her ribs like a trapped animal. "Is it gone?" Lila asked, her big eyes scanning the shadows that danced at the edges of the quiet hallway. She looked so small, so fragile. Sara wanted to believe their escape had marked the end, but that doll's laughter echoed in her mind, decorated with malice and threat. It felt like a promise of return. "Let us keep moving," Sara urged, forcing herself to smile. She tried to lead them forward, but her legs felt heavy, like they were sinking into the floor. Every creak made her jump, plunging her back into memories of chaotic screams and the piercing gaze of that terrible doll. They wandered, breathless and tense, through the twisting maze of corridors that felt alive, each turn a potential danger. Paint peeled away from the walls like the hide of some hideous beast, exposing a rotting interior. "What if it comes back?" Ben asked, his voice a trembling echo, resonating with raw dread. "Then we fight it together," Sara declared boldly, but uncertainty coiled in her gut. How could she fight what she couldn't see? What if the battle was merely beginning? Suddenly, a flickering light caught her attention. "Look!" Lila pointed, her eyes wide with wonder, and for a moment, the atmosphere shifted, hope sparking in the dead air. As they turned the corner, they stumbled upon a small, open room. The walls were cluttered with empty shelves lined with dust and old, broken toys. In the center, an ancient lamp flickered with a weak, wavering glow, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for them. "Stay close," Sara instructed, urgency lacing her tone. She scanned the room, wary of another trap hiding within the darkness. As they approached the lamp, the shadows in the room began to swirl and pulse, alive beneath the gentle light. The air grew heavy, filled with whispers that sent shivers racing down Sara's spine. Suddenly, the shimmering light extinguished with a soft pop, plunging them into blackness. The whispers surged, twisting into wailing screams that surrounded them. "Mommy!" Lila cried out, small hands clutching Sara. She could feel her daughter tremble beside her, fear radiating from her like an electric pulse. "Just hold on to me," Sara shouted, although the very reminder caused her heart to sputter with anxiety. The shadows crept back, snake-like and insatiable. She could almost hear the doll's laughter again, a sickening reminder of its sinister grip. Then, in that suffocating darkness, a figure loomed ahead, an outline against the wall, draped in shadows. Sara felt her breath hitch, a cold sweat forming at the nape of her neck. "Mommy, what is that?" Ben clutched her side tightly, his voice trembling as a sob threatened to escape. Before she could respond, a faint glimmer caught her eye on the figure. It seemed familiar, too familiar. A wild racing of thoughts filled her mind, mixing with memories. The figure stepped closer, the comforting outline of a teddy bear. Just like the one from before. "Children, why did you run away?" A voice echoed, soft and beckoning. "Not again." Panic surged through Sara like a wildfire. "Run!" she screamed, but before they could move, the shadows closed in, thick and choking. "Your mother only leads you back into darkness." The voice twisted and snarled through the air, resonating with agony. With a pulse of desperation, Sara tightened her grip on Lila and Ben, pushing through the ocean of shadows, feeling the walls press in, hungry and desperate to consume them. "Fight! Don't let it take you!" she yelled, pouring every ounce of her energy into those words. But even as they struggled against the encroaching darkness, a more sinister realization took root in her mind. Had they really escaped? Or were they only walking deeper into its clutches? The shadows wove tighter, and then something in the darkness shifted, preparing to strike again. What had she unleashed this time? The shadows rippled like water, and Sara felt a suffocating panic grip her heart. She forced herself to push forward, the screams of her children driving her onward, even as the darkness clawed at her heels. Their world had shrunk to the three of them clinging fingers and frantic breath. "Mommy!" Lila's voice broke through the chaos, each cry sharp enough to cut her resolve. "We can't stop!" Sara shouted, her voice frantic and filled with determination. She refused to let the shadows claim them, not when hope flickered just beyond the doom. The air seemed to thicken, each breath dragging like lead through her lungs. The voices crowded around them, a dissonant choir of dread whispering promises of despair. Panic congealed in the pit of her stomach as she felt the walls pressing inward. "Where do we go?" Ben squeaked, his small hand slipping from hers momentarily. She felt a surge of terror, but just as quickly, she felt his grip return, squeezing with desperate trust. "Just follow my voice." Sara guided, feeling that her own courage might unravel if they lingered too long in the darkness. "We'll find a way out." Suddenly, a shrill giggle warped through the darkness, so close it shot chills through her veins. It was a sound so hauntingly familiar, the doll's laughter from before. That taunting tone wrapped around her, solidifying the fear in their hearts and shaking her confidence to its core. Then, just up ahead, the darkness quivered and exploded into action, a figure springing forth from the inky blackness. It was a swirling mass, limbs long and elongated, moving with unnatural grace. "Why did you abandon me?" it hissed, its voice layered with centuries of bitterness. "Run!" Sara screamed in a voice she scarcely recognized as her own. She darted forward, leading her children into the thick mist of shadows, their pounding feet echoing down the corridor. They veered left, nearly colliding with the wall, and for a moment, Sara pushed forth a glimmer of hope. There was light. Ahead was a doorway beckoning them with feeble rays. With every ounce of her being, she urged her children forward, feeling the rush of adrenaline flush her cheeks, but just as they neared, the dilapidated door shuddered violently, slamming shut with a thunderous bang. Darkness enveloped them again, and the laughter grew, pelting their ears like rain in a storm. "Mom! What's happening?" Lila cried, her voice a thin wail in the overwhelming void. I don't know, baby. Just stay with me. Sarah's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a caged beast. She felt helpless, like she was losing the battle meant to protect her children. The figure was gaining ground, limbs stretching unnaturally toward them. Sarah's mind swam. The circling shadows tightened like a noose, full of sinister, angry energy. What if they really never escaped that cursed doll? What if even now they were simply puppets in a grim game? Desperation clawed at her when she remembered the stories she'd heard about this place, the ones she'd dismissed as lunacy. Rumors of a haunted nursery, toys that came to life, souls trapped within dolls forever laughing madly. Was it more than folklore? Had they truly become part of some malevolent tale? Mom! Please! Ben's voice morphed into a whimper, his tiny body trembling beside her. She could see the fear etched on his face, hear the soft sobs of desperation fighting through his words. With sudden clarity, she understood. There was no fighting the darkness, no overpowering the malevolence that hungered for them. She had to embrace the truth. Hold on to each other. Sara yelled, rallying the last shred of her will. We'll find a way out. Together. With each word a heartbeat, they huddled together. As the darkness swirled around them, she felt the chill crawl up her spine, stealing her breath. But in their tight-knit circle, there was a spark, a unity forged in their fear. Then, just as the shadows seemed ready to engulf them, a piercing light burst forth from behind the closed door, slicing through the darkness like a knife. Was it a way out? A new dawn? Or a trick from the dark? That light pulsed, drawing them in, but what lurked behind it? What awaited them once they stepped through? The light surged toward them, encapsulating Sara and her children like a warm embrace after years of cold. It pulsed with energy, beckoning them to step forward. For a heartbeat, hope ignited within Sara's chest. Could this be their escape? No. A voice bellowed from the dark, outrage amplifying the shadows. The figure twisted, its elongated limbs clawing towards the light, desperate to reclaim its prey. You cannot leave me. You took my life. Mommy, I'm scared. Lila whimpered, instinctively shuffling closer to Ben, her voice cracking under the weight of their peril. I know, baby, I know, Sara whispered hurriedly, her heart racing. The warmth of the light contrasted sharply with the icy dread curling around them. We have to move. On my count. 1. The darkness writhed, close enough that she felt its breath chilling the backs of her neck. 2. The laughter from the shadows crescendoed, morphing into a cacophony that filled her ears, drowning out everything else. 3. Without a moment's hesitation, Sara grabbed her children's hands and ran. They leaped into the brilliance, the radiance swallowing them whole just as a shadow clawed at the edge of the light. The world shifted violently. They tumbled into a small, sun-drenched room so different from the terror they had escaped. It was filled with soft pillows and colorful toys, as if they had landed in a picture-perfect child's paradise. But Sara didn't feel safe, her instincts screamed otherwise. Where are we? Ben asked, his voice quivering. He peered around, eyes wide. I don't know, Sara murmured, feeling the air was thick with residual fear, as if the shadows were still pressing in on them. The laughter echoed faintly, now a mocking whisper. Lila turned in circles, eyes darting around the room. Mom, it feels wrong, you're right. Sara's breath hitched as she surveyed their surroundings. The toys, while painted in cheerful colors, seemed to watch them, little eyes glinting with a knowing familiarity. Each doll and stuffed animal felt eerily alive, as if it could pounce at any moment. Suddenly, a small teddy bear tipped over, landing face up, revealing its button eyes staring straight at them. Her heart raced at the uncanny sight. Mommy, I want to go home. Lila's voice trembled, eyes pooling with tears. Shoo, it's okay. We will find a way. Sara reassured while scanning for an exit. There has to be another door. The laughter faded momentarily, replaced by a low, haunting hum reverberating through the room. Each note seemed to resonate deep inside her, making her shiver. She felt something strange, like the walls around them were alive, breathing nearer with an insidious intent. She looked at her children, fear twisting in her gut. We need to stay close, no matter what. As they moved cautiously, the shadows clawed at the edges of their newfound sanctuary, yearning for the warmth of their presence. The more they explored, the more the room warped, reflections of their world twisting grotesquely. And then Sara stumbled upon an ornate, dusty mirror, unlike anything she had ever seen. It was cracked and foggy, but her reflection looked solid, more than a reflection, an echo of her past self. A feeling crept over her. This place was feeding on emotions, the fear ripe and fragrant. What if we can't get out? Ben whispered, losing the fight to suppress his fright. What if we're stuck here forever? No. Sara shot back, rallying her spirit. We won't be trapped. We just need to find the truth, the key. But as she spoke, a dreadful realization washed over her. The shadow from their previous torment was more than just another pursuit. It wanted something from them, something that could bind their very souls if they weren't careful. The room shivered under the weight of their fear as the mirror reflected their paling faces. Mom? Lila's voice faltered. What if it wants us to look closer? Sara breathed, the ghost of doubt choking her words. With a tremor in her hand, she reached toward the mirror, pulling her children closer. Whatever happens, we face it together. Right? But just as her fingers grazed the surface, the laugh erupted again, venomous and wild as shadows lurked hungrily at the edge of the glass. What truth lay veiled within, waiting to consume them all? As Sara braced herself, she realized that stepping toward the truth was a gamble she might have to take. What if they were being watched? What would she see if she peered deeper into the reflection? With her heart in her throat, Sara steeled herself. Fear clung to her like a damp mist as she took a deep breath. Whatever happens, we face it together, she whispered to her children, who clung to her sides. Their determination mingled with uncertainty, but love, pure, fierce love, was their tether. As her fingers touched the mirror's surface, a shudder raced through her body. The glass rippled, then darkened, transforming into a swirling vortex of unrecognizable images. She could see fleeting snapshots of memories, each more tormenting than the last. There were the happy moments, family dinners, birthdays, trips to the park, intertwined with darker images of shapes lurking just at the edges of their joy. It twisted her stomach. Mommy? Lila's voice quavered, threading through the chaos like a lifeline. What's happening? Just watch, Sara urged, her breath quickening. The mirror pulsed brighter, illuminating their features with ghostly light. There's something we need to understand. Then, in a flash, everything changed. The mirror revealed the doll, the chilling figure that had haunted them. Its grin was wider, more sinister, forming a cloak of shadows that engulfed the room. You think you can run from me? It screeched, a sound that vibrated through the very marrow of her bones. The laughter erupted once more, piercing and malevolent. No! Sara shouted, shaking her head against the encroaching fear. We're not afraid of you. We're stronger. The doll's gaze focused on the children, and for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossed its face. Sara saw the hesitation, the wavering confidence. Lila. Ben. She cried, determination surging within her. Look into the mirror. Remember who you are. You're not toys to be played with. The children looked at her, confused but trusting. They stepped toward the mirror, hands intertwined, hearts racing as they faced the dark reflection of their tormentor. Who are you? Ben shouted, adding strength to his sister's resolve. You're just a doll. You can't control us. The doll's laughter faltered, twisting into a growl. You think you can win? You are nothing without your fear. I feed on your darkness. No. Lila yelled. We put our love first. As if ignited by their unity, a radiant warmth began emitting from their clasped hands, spiraling toward the mirror like sunlight breaking through a storm. It was pure, unyielded, stronger than any shadow. The swirling images shifted, images of love and family, courage and laughter swarming against the darkness coiling around the doll. It convulsed, the shadows shrieking as light bore down deeply into the heart of their fears. Stop! It cried, struggling against the dazzling brightness. You cannot hold me. Together. Sara cried, urging her children to press onward, pushing the glow further. We are a family. We stand united. With that declaration, the light exploded, flooding the room in brilliance. Sara felt warmth envelop her, a gentle embrace born from the depths of her heart. It surged through her, building, accumulating until the darkness shrieked and fractured, splintered like glass underfoot. The echoes of the doll's cries fell silent, consumed by the radiant pulse of the love they shared. As the chaos subsided, they found themselves back in the quaint little room, but this time, every shadow dissolved, replaced by a serene calm. The air felt fresh, filled with warmth that invited peace into their hearts. Did we win? Ben whispered while blinking at his mother, hope stirring behind his eyes. Sara looked at her children, relieved, vibrant. I think we did, she breathed, blinking back tears. Lila erupted into giggles, breaking the lingering tension and wrapping her arms around her mother. You were so brave, Mommy. Not as brave as you two, Sara smiled through her tears, holding them close. Fear will always be there, but together, we can overcome it. As they stood there, bathed in love, the weight of despair lifted like fog retreating before the dawn. The air around them sparkled with hope, a testament to their journey through darkness. Hand in hand, they made their way toward the exit, sharing soft whispers of reassurance, their bond unbreakable. With each step, Sara felt the burdens of that night lighten, fear diminishing, replaced instead with love and laughter. Once outside, they were greeted by a sun-soaked morning bathed in golden light, bright and welcoming. The world felt reborn, each blade of grass dancing, every bird chirping a triumphant song. Mommy, can we go get ice cream? Lila asked, bouncing with excitement. Absolutely. Sara replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. Today is a day for celebrating life. And as they walked down the path, their laughter ringing like chimes in the morning air, Sara felt an undeniable truth settle within her. Shadows could loom, laughter may echo with fright, but love was the ultimate light, illuminating even the bleakest corners of despair. As they headed into the horizon, shadows faded into nothing, the curse lifted, leaving only the beauty of a new day. But remember, as Sara and her children found their way back to safety, there was a lingering whisper hidden in the shadows, a reminder that darkness will always seek the light. So, take this lesson to heart. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Your support makes all the difference. Let us keep the stories rolling.